Welcome back to Gut Feelings Life Unfiltered. It's Dr. Melissa here and Dr. Jeanette, and we're back. We were off last week.
We were.
We have not taken any time off from podcasting. So we want to share why we took a week off.
Yeah.
Comfortable with that.
Yeah, it was just a lot of trauma. Um, I, oh my God. I guess yeah, I mean, I had taken off so much time actually because I had a certification training in South Florida and then I went straight into my dad's 80th birthday vacation. And even before I left for my training, my dog, Osita, she's my 13-year-old soul Siberian Husky. She is the love of my life. She started not eating as much and she was throwing up bile. And so I was very concerned about her then. And then it was just like such a rush. Like everything was a rush. I had my certification. Drove back from South Florida at like 9 p.m. and had to pack for the next vacation that we left. We got up at 2:30 a.m.
Oh,
to then fly out. So it was like no time to even spend with the dogs. And she was kind of eating some, and then we had the dog watcher come, and so she was like, "Oh my gosh!" And then on vacation, I went to Puerto Rico with my whole family for my dad's 80th. Like I said, we were just like so concerned about her the whole time, and the dog watcher, it was amazing. She did such a good job, and she was trying to like make Osita different foods and boil chicken and do anything she could to get her to eat, and she was eating a little bit. And then when we got back, she just completely stopped eating. And I tried everything. Like we took her to the vet, and the vet did her blood work, and her blood work looked great. And so we gave her an anti-nausea med to help her stop throwing up. And I'm like, maybe she'll start eating if she stops throwing up. So she stopped throwing up, but she still wouldn't eat. And again, it was just like such torture, like watching her decline and doing everything we could and making every single thing I could think of making and putting it in front of her, and she wouldn't eat it. And then we took her to the vet again, and they did x-rays this time. And I was, thinking maybe like a tumor or cancer. And when we got the call from the vet, like telling us what was going on with the x-rays, we had so much hope in that moment, like so much relief because it was just, they said arthritis. Like she had a lot of bone spurs, and it could be that she was in pain, and that's why she wasn't eating, which didn't explain really the throwing up the bile part, but she wasn't throwing up bile then. So they were going to give her some pain meds and then sent us home with pain meds. And she honestly got even worse after the pain meds. And it was just like we were in torture, the torture of our minds, and the torture of just sitting there with her and watching her decline, but feeling like we couldn't leave the house because we didn't want to leave her. So it was a lot. I'm not gonna lie, I'm like still like processing everything. Like Travis and I cried so much. And we're still like really sad because she was the best dog in the world and she was our child. And even yesterday, the vet called Travis because we had her cremated, but the way he said it, and he apologized because he didn't realize he said it, but he was like, they called and said, Osita's ready to be picked up. And like my mind went back to the Monday
mm.
where they called and said that it was just the arthritis and we could come pick her up. And it was just like so much like, oh my God, I can go pick up my baby. And then like my heart like totally dropped and I broke into tears because they meant pick up her ashes. So it's like, ugh, so solidified now that she is gone. So it is, yeah, a lot of shit.
It's because you're talking about this off air, but when raising dogs, especially when they're from a puppy, like it's like you said, it's more earlier. It's like more than a pet because
Yeah.
you're nurturing this creature, this you have this rhythm of life. You do the same things every day. They wake up and greet you, and they are so a part of who you are. And it's so this is where like the nasty thing about grief is like grief comparison of like, well, it's just a dog or it's just my pet. It's like, no, it was your baby that you raised from infancy, that you fed all the most beautiful foods that you could feed them, and maybe make sure she was extremely taken care of. And there's so much lost in that. And so,
And it's tough, and I'm sure you went through this too, where it's like you have so much love for that particular thing or person. And like Travis and I were talking, it's like it's that love is for them specifically. It's like non-transferable. Like people will be like, well, then give that love to somebody else or give that love to your other dog. And it's like, no,
no,
no, it's specific love for her
yeah,
because I think like your nervous system has learned like their patterns and their way. And when you give that love, what you receive, and like it's just that bond and connection with that specific person or thing where, yeah, now it's like the grief part too is like there's nowhere for this love to go. Like
hmm
it's,
well, and it's when people say like, oh, you can get another dog, or you can,
yeah,
oh, you're young, you can have another get another husband, or like have
yeah,
another child. Like this is the annoying things that people try to say to you in these moments that are so hard, that they're trying to support you, but it's like nobody can replace Osita.
yeah,
No dog can replace Osita.
yeah,
And because yeah, you had just your own individual relationship with this soul.
yeah. She like, she was like intertwined with my soul. Like we've had so, like I've had animals my whole life, but like it was such a different bond with her.
Mm,
It was crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, just trying to process that
Yeah.
for sure.
Yep. So it was good to take a week off. And this is what we do when we have to take care of ourselves. And we have learned that through the last 40, are you 40? You're 41. You're
41.
going to be 42.
21.
For the last 41 years, 42 years of life on this planet, we realize that sometimes we have to take off. In fact, even our office manager at the office just canceled Dr. Doctor's day. Like,
She did.
just took it upon herself because you would have probably powered through.
Well, I don't know. I was in such a freaking zombie
Yeah.
state. And then yeah, my office manager, Erin, like we took off the day before. And even that was so bizarre. When you like plan, we like had to call and have this scheduled. And it's like,
Oh,
oh my God, the seconds and minutes up to like it's almost like I don't know what movie I saw as a child, but it was like they're coming to like just kill your child. Like
yeah.
it's so
Oh,
bizarre. And it's like the stress and anxiety. And like Travis and I knew we were in like full blown survival mode, fight or flight, but we couldn't do anything to help ourselves. It was like we were just stuck there
mm,
and counting down the seconds of that, like it was just horrendous. But yeah, Aaron was so kind to just tell me like I canceled your
yeah.
schedule for the next day. And I went through like feeling guilty about doing that. And then I was like, oh my God, I can't even function. So yeah, I'm glad she
Just for
did.
the best. Yeah. And patients love, love, love you. And I think it would have been, um, they would want to support you, but it can be too much when you're in the thick of it, when you're like bombarded with that love.
Yeah.
It's good attention on their part, but I think that you needed a day in Travis to just be together and like
Yeah.
live
Thank
in
you. And
that.
it was nice knowing that like you were there, Mel, because I fully trust you and I could like let go. I feel like in the past I've like held on to like, oh, but I can't. But I was I was
Oh, thank
receiving the love and the support from
good.
both of you.
Good.
And I knew everyone was in the best hands
Thanks.
possible. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Well, so on this episode, we do have to talk about who we're interviewing. So we decided to do this little intro first so we can update you, but then we want to talk about Abby.
Yes, we have a special guest today. So today's conversation is about what happens when life brings you face to face with how precious and how fragile it really is. So our guest today is Abby Brassfield. She is a wife and a mom of three boys, a lifelong athlete and nature lover, and the founder of On the Horizon Consulting. She is also a writer, speaker, and coach whose work is centered around possibility, self-belief, and remembering the power that already exists within us. In 2024, Abby became critically ill when the flu progressed into a life-threatening pneumonia. She spent 75 days in ICU, much of that time in a coma and on life support. At one point, doctors were even discussing the possibility of a double lung transplant. But Abby's story is not only about surviving a devastating medical crisis, it is about what happens afterward. The physical and the emotional healing, the deepening of her faith, and the realization that she no longer wanted to postpone the life she felt called to create. Her experience gave her the courage to build a life and career rooted in meaning, authenticity, and joy. Today, she helps other women recognize that they do not have to remain stuck, continue putting themselves last, or completely reinvent themselves to create a life that feels more aligned. Sometimes the next version of our lives is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who we were before we learned to abandon doubt and minimize ourselves. All right, Abby, welcome to Gut Feelings Life Unfiltered. We are so excited to have you here and for you to share your story with us. And before we talk about the illness and everything that followed, who were you before that experience? Like, what did your life look like during that time before you got your illness?
Um, well, thank you for asking and thank you for having me. I appreciate being here to talk with you and your audience. Um, so prior to my illness and all that happened after, I was pretty much like being a very busy worker, a busy mom, not holding boundaries that kept me healthy. So I felt like very stressed out frequently and kind of living in a bit of fight or flight, struggling with some anxiety and just overall feeling like there's got to be more to this, like there's got to be a better way, but feeling very stuck and unsure if that was even available to me. It just was kind of like, well, this is it. This is how it is.
Yeah.
And although I was active and tried to be healthy, like my body was just telling me something wasn't right, like kind of hanging on to weight, even though I'd work out and eat healthy and just kind of having that low hum of just constant stress in my chest. And although everything seemed great, I have three wonderful children and a husband, and we have, lots of nice friends in the community. It's just something seemed off and I couldn't quite figure it out. I don't think I had the tools to figure it out at the time. Even though I thought I was doing all the right things, there was still something missing. And
Mm,
so I had worked in a school at the time and the germs there are real. And
hmm.
so I had
Super bugs.
gradually over the years kind of gotten just used to getting sick in January. Like, this is just how it's going to be. The school's all sick. We're sick. And, um, and so that year, what was in 2023, December 23, we had lost my mother-in-law
Oh, wow.
pretty rapidly. And so like she had battled lupus and other things her whole life, but there was a lot of grief going into that winter. And I
Yeah.
do feel like if that's left unprocessed and just kind of takes over, it can really affect you.
Yeah.
And so I think that by the time January came, my immune system had decided like, we just can't keep up. We've been telling you to stop and slow down, and you're not listening. And so I got the flu, and then it rapidly, within days, turned into necroptic pneumonia.
Wow.
And I went from coughing on, texting my friend and being like, I don't know how I'm going to sleep through the night. I can't breathe. To the next morning being rushed by my husband to the hospital
Oh my gosh.
because I just wasn't getting enough oxygen at that point. It was pretty, pretty fast. And so 24 hours max later, I was on a ventilator and they were helicoptering me to a bigger hospital nearby.
Oh my gosh, that's terrifying.
What a
Yeah.
story.
So during that time, were you aware of what was going on, or were you in a
So
coma
at
at that?
that point, like I knew I was sick because that whole week, it was the 16th I got diagnosed with the flu, and by the 19th I was in the ER. And so I was kind of like very much like a just push through and tough it out. And like, you don't get to take care of yourself first person. That's just kind of the pattern that had developed over my life. And I was like, I'll get better tomorrow. I'm sure I'll be fine. Sure, I'll send that email. Sure, I'll sit in the parking lot waiting for my kids instead of resting.
Yeah.
But by the time we went to the ER, I do not recall like saying goodbye to my kids before school, or I vaguely recall being in the ER for like an hour maybe, and that was about it.
Wow. And you were
So,
in there for 75 days.
yeah, so that was January 19th when I went in, and I was not discharged until April 5th
Oh
in
my
24.
gosh. That is insane. And I
Yeah.
know you've described like a near-death experience. Do you feel comfortable sharing that with us?
Yeah, I do, because I think that a lot of what's shaped me from that time and that experience till brought me through some healing and stuff is kind of like it's all woven together, which has been kind of nice to pull out pieces and parts that I find like I wish I would have known sooner or an easier way. But yeah, I was placed in a medically induced coma, and I had a tracheotomy put in your throat. And then so the machine was pretty much a ventilator was breathing for me. And the doctors had been like about 2 weeks or 10 days actually into my hospital stay. I had experienced a lot of coma dreams, and it was similar to what I described, like living lifetimes over and over again. And I was just searching for my family. I don't know like how much you all are familiar with medically induced comas, but I've only learned this one go
Yeah.
around. But they kind of wean you in and out a little bit. I didn't know that I was getting weaned in and out, but I think that kind of correlated with some of the dreams perhaps, or it was just like I was in a different place just searching for my family. And
So you
especially
remember that. You remember the being
I
in the
remember all my dreams. Like they're very vivid. Yeah.
okay, and were they like
And
visual or like odd? Like what did you tell? I'm sorry, I feel like I cut you off.
no,
I'm
go
just
ahead.
about that, what that felt like and
Sure.
looked like.
Yeah. So let me just turn that up. So a lot of different, not a ton of different people from that would come visit in the hospital, but a few folks were present, and it was kind of like um well, one of them was in the beginning. I was wanting to have another funeral for my mother-in-law because I
Wow.
just missed her so much, and I didn't speak at her funeral, and I had wished that I had because I had so much to say. She was
Yeah.
super important to me, like all of us in our family. But I had seen her and experienced being around her after her passing, and she was, I was like, I'm so tired. My lungs I can't breathe. Can I just stay? And she was like, no, you have to
Oh,
go back. They
wow.
need you. And so I kind of just kept going through things, going through lifetimes, kept fighting. Like it was a true physical fight while my body was still alive, doing its own thing. But mentally it was exhausting
I
and kind of
bet.
heartbreaking. So at one point, I mean, like there were bizarre things too. I think I was on, there were a lot of IV bags working their job. And at one point I was kind of going through, sounds strange, but rollerblading through a parking garage, like on a
Wow.
race, looking for my son. And if you won the race, you could probably find them or not, so I was, found my way to the bottom, and there was someone there, not quite sure who, but I was like, okay, where is he? Like, I'm done. I finished the race. Like, where is he? And they said to me that he's not here in this lifetime. So, you know,
Wow.
all this for nothing. And I was like, at that point, I think we correlated the timing perhaps to when they attempted to take me off of a ventilator thinking I was getting better. And in fact, I was not, and I kind of crashed and was like very close to not breathing at all.
My
And
God.
so it was at that point where found myself in like the bottom of the parking garage. And I was just like, well, if he doesn't exist, then there is no point to this anymore. Like, I'm so tired and my heart's broken. And so that, like, I kind of like fell back into the parking garage and like entered, like, I just felt like this light of healing and like cellular, just super healing. And it felt so good to breathe. You just feel like total bliss of love, I
Mm.
think. And so then I was just kind of falling back and feeling that just you're surrounded by just miraculous healing. And all of a sudden, like there was a presence with me, and I look up in my experience and it was God, and he was like, well, you have a choice, Abby, but um they really need you, and you can stay or you can go back, but it's going to be really hard.
Um,
And I was like, if they're alive, I'm going back.
yeah.
so
But
so
yeah.
yeah, so then I kind of came back through. They had taken the crash bag and like gotten me revived. And my husband, this is like through what he told me because I was obviously on my side, but they had decided then to place me on life support. So I was on put on ECMO, which is like a machine that oxygenates your blood. It takes it out and puts it back in. You guys probably are familiar with it, but sometimes audiences are not, because I had never been familiar with such a thing. But it's pretty much the highest form of life support that you can get, and I'm so grateful that they knew to do it. And so after a few more days at that hospital, I was double caravanned by ambulance. They have to have a backup just in case, because you're on this generator basically to live. And I was taken to a hospital in Northern Virginia that specializes in ECMO. And it was there that I spent the majority, or well, the rest of my hospital stay, like in the ICU, but in such capable, loving, and intelligent hands. So, but it was kind of like during that time, I went back to recurring dreams of lifetime after lifetime looking for everyone. But I had been told that they needed me, that I'd get better, and that, you know, I chose to come back. So,
Wow.
Oh my
yeah.
God.
What and it's interesting with the near death experiences. There is like this core. I actually am really obsessed with learning about this stuff, and so
Good.
I like to hear like the correlations between everybody's story, and there is always similarities of like describing that all-encompassing love that is like you can't even put words to.
Right.
Um, and you described it as love and also healing. Is it hard for you to describe? Like, is it more than
It
words?
Yeah, it's very challenging because it's more of like a just a complete feeling of, and more beautiful than words can express in
Yeah.
our world here. It's something that I honestly feel blessed to have gone through, because it really shifted my perspective on life and like the importance of this lifetime with these people that we love, and what we can create. Like we don't have to be stuck in things, and feeling like anxiety and depression and stuff, to a point where it's like you can love yourself enough and feel loved and worthy of love to go on and like make it the best lifetime you can.
Yeah.
Mm.
Do you feel like going through this experience was like almost mandatory in your life to kind of project you? Like I hate when we this- us grieving people or whatever, when like we've lost or we've experienced trauma, it's like nothing's more annoying was like, oh, you had to go through that. Like even Jen and I just talked about it. Like you have to go through that to like be better. And it's like that's kind of irritating because the traumas and the loss are so big sometimes. But like, do you feel describe like how the trajectory of your life changed after that.
Sure. Yeah. And I think that maybe there's options along the way where we wouldn't have to go through something so traumatic if you like are exposed to the right learning tools. But then too, I've had coaches and therapists that say we signed up for this and it's part of what our soul came to experience on earth, because I really don't know if everything would have shifted so much and I would have experienced like it was like just to part of the second half, I guess, or a little longer than half of my coma dreams and things, I was visited by more people in my community and like more just familiar faces. A lot of times it was just strangers in your dreams. But I was told, and I mean the nicest thing that people can say to me or that I like feel so much gratitude for is like, I was one of the ones that prayed for you. We prayed for you like all the time. And, you know, our church was holding vigils and things like that are just so touching. And I really felt like there was some kind of pull back to stay, like keep going,
Yeah.
just keep going because you are so loved and you have so much love to give others still, you know, not just my kids and my husband, but like everyone. And so now I've forgotten the question.
That's okay. You know what? Actually, why don't you finish telling what your story is? Because I think I cut
Okay.
you off like mid,
No,
you
that's
know.
okay. I'm, like I said, fresh to all this. But yeah, so that second half kind of continued with more hope. And I just kept, you know, remember my husband telling me that he was going to come to visit. So that hospital is about 5 hours away from where we live.
Oh, wow.
So thankfully I had some friends like come like fly in from wherever and just stay, thankfully, and take turns. And there was a huge group of women supporting my children. And that I'm so grateful for that too. But like you could kind of feel the love in that second half, like of, okay, let's keep going. And so then about Valentine's Day, my husband came and he had asked them not to wean me back in to deep coma time, like drugged, but to leave me like slightly out. And although I don't remember talking to anyone when I would kind of be less intense on the drugs, but he felt like he knew I was still there and, you know, like everything like that. But so anyway, they had not listened and put me down deep. And so he kind of, that was the final straw with all this. It had been a long road of him on his own with the family and like thankfully our friends. But I think it just was like, that's it. You got to wake her up, take her off the drugs. She's got to come out and fight. And the doctors told him, well, we've never done that before. That's not what we usually do. Usually we leave them because it's traumatic. And he's like, when she wakes up, scratching at all of the things, she has no idea what's going on. And that's traumatic, but she can handle it. Like she's so stubborn. I think she'll get through it. And so thankfully that was Valentine's Day. And then March 4th is when I remember like waking up. And I was sure that I was awake in the hospital. I had not known, it didn't really compute that I was sick. I didn't really know how long time had gone. And thankfully I had my brother and a couple best friends in the room to kind of bring me back online and update me on things. But I'm so grateful. So then for about a month, I was awake and like working on everything I could do to clear my lungs and to get better. I had about a week after I woke up, 2 doctors that weren't my usual doctors came in and sat down across from me and said, well, we want you to know you're on the double lung transplant list. And we highly recommend that that's the route that you go because right now you have 23% lung function and we don't think they're going to get better. And like, here's what your life's going to look like. And I just kind of was like, what? And then I just thought, like, something inside me just started feeling like that glowing light of I don't know, it felt like I described it as love or power or something. In that I was like, no, I didn't go through all this for that. And I've been on the other side, and I know that I can get better. I'm told I'm going to get better. And I just in that moment was like, man, they don't know who I am. Like, I'm going to get better. And so I couldn't speak or write. I mean, I could write. I couldn't speak. And I had a little marker board. And I had been in coma for so long that my hands kind of didn't work very well. And I had lost 50 pounds or so by then. So really weakly, but as strong as I could, right, on my marker board, I wrote, I'm going to get better and go home to my family.
Oh
The
my
end.
God.
Like, that's it. Turned it around, sent it over. And although I remained on the lung transplant list, I was like determined with all my heart and soul to get better, and just spent a lot of time envisioning the healing and remembering the feelings that came to me in the coma to get physically better. And so every day, that's what I do. I keep working on clearing my lungs. I had to learn to walk again, which was interesting. I had the best care team on that. It took about 10 people, I'd say, to walk me around in the machine and support me. We'd go around the ICU level, that hallway there. And but I mean, I was determined, and that was like my favorite part of the day.
Um,
And it was just like, no, I'm gonna get better. That there's no doubt about it.
Wow, Abby, that's amazing. I feel like even just while you were in the comas and the in and out, your strength and just knowing that you had to be here, and then even the belief that you knew you were going to get better, and the feeling yourself getting better, and the visualization, all of that was so powerful in your healing, just because you were so dedicated and you knew that this is where you had to be and you were going to get better.
Yeah, it was there. Like, I tell folks that there were many blessings learned throughout this challenging experience, but to go through it and then come out the other side with a whole different look out on life is like, what a blessing. And what I get to share with others is really meaningful to me, because I know what it's like to feel like kind of in a hard place. And having the, even before I got sick, challenges in life was like, oh, if we can share with even one person that it helps to just give them hope, or feel like they're powerful enough to create that healing and co-create it and then build that beautiful life. It's like, and every day is not sunshine and roses, but like, overall, it's such a blessing to be here.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and even the part of probably you going home from the hospital, there probably was almost like a grief in that, because you were a different person leaving the
Yeah.
hospital and going home, and all the difficulties. Like, we always celebrate, like, oh, they're going home, they're better, but there's probably a whole new set of challenges even getting home. Like, what did you go through when you did leave the hospital?
Sure. So I remember I was in the ICU for 65 days, and then for 10 days I was in like the step down unit. And I went from having a dedicated nurse 24 hours a day that I could look at through my window, and I experienced a lot of panic attacks and struggles with breathing. And if I'd fall asleep or doze off, wake up just terrified. And so, like, I had my person, and I could look there and see her or him. I had such a great team. And they'd come sit with me in the night or something if I got really scared, because your visitors couldn't stay overnight. And so when I went down to step down, it was kind of scary and a whole new world, because you don't have someone right there all the time. It was a lot of time spent alone. And I feel like in reflection, but then also too, just kind of wondering, like, what's going on? Like, am I going to get better? This is taking longer than I wanted. It's not instant. And but it was okay, and it was a good transition, because then I got home, and I had a caregiver who another wonderful friend arranged to have her come stay with me. The kids were still in school, and thankfully my friends would come over. People were bringing us food, because I couldn't stand to cook. I was pretty much in my lazy boy that I got when I was pregnant with my kids. It turned into my hospital bed, but so comforting. And yeah, just slowly working to build my strength back. I was on oxygen 24 hours a day for probably the first year almost.
Oh my God.
So really, that was an adjustment to being held back. But one thing I was really determined on was getting a backpack where you can actually go out and walk around a little. And so I worked really hard with my doctor to get that, my pulmonologist here, and gradually started shuffling my way around outside. And then I had a great PT and OT in the hospital and again after to regain use of my hands and balance walking and things like that again. But yeah, it was interesting because I had gone from never slowing down and always pushing through to being completely forced to stay there and rest and lie down. And the shift in, I remember apologizing a lot, like, I'm sorry, but these socks hurt really bad. Can you take them off or something? Like little things like that, like apologizing for asking for help. And and as I went through that year after, and in the time I was awake, it's like, we should totally be asking each other for help. Like that is what community is for. And it's okay to need it sometimes.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you weak or like not doing good enough. I had a thing with like perfectionism, I'd say.
Yeah.
So yes. And so I learned a lot about that too, being in that healing process. And again, being supported by the community and friends that would cheer me on and kind of help with the children. And it was really nice to know how many great people there are in the world.
Yeah.
Did it become easier to ask for help as time went on?
Yes, it did. Once I was like, you actually need it and you can ask for it, and giving myself permission. I think I had to do a lot of work around being kind to myself, or like practicing self-love, but like in your heart, not just like going to get a facial or something.
Yeah.
And so a lot of work on that. And that really helped. And I wish that I would have known about it sooner, but I'm glad that I can share about it now and that I've experienced that more, because it's such a gift that we could give ourselves every day.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah. And
still struggle.
well, yeah,
with,
it's a never, I feel like it is a hard thing. There's no 100% it's gone, right? But the
yeah.
fact that you have to experience what you experience and have to dig deep and to find it, what a good tool that you can use to describe to your clients. I mean, having that experience is just so, if I were your client, I would be like, well, she knows. She had to do it really, maybe many really hard things and love herself during it. So, wow.
Yeah. And the time, I can only imagine your nervous system, because you had mentioned that you were in fight or flight even before you
Yeah.
got sick, but
Oh yeah.
then being in like survival state for that long, like kind of what did you do? Because I know you're aware of like the nervous system and how that's a big part of healing. How did you learn that or incorporate the nervous system healing piece into your recovery? Because I think that was probably a massive part of it.
Yes. Yeah. And that's a really good point too. I didn't kind of go into, it was not just like I got out of the hospital and I was magically nervous system healed, but there was still a lot of fear that it would happen again, or like, I don't know. There's so many unknowns and such a weird experience. And I did a lot of work. Part of my long recovery was doing pulmonary rehab. And then also I had a dear friend who's a yoga and breathing instructor. So we worked together a lot. And then I found I have wonderful therapists with CBT and IFS work. And then one of our coaches that you're familiar with, I know, Jen, is a breath worker. And I think it like really shifted things to the next level for me. So that's something that I found that. And then I've always been into CrossFit and kind of walking. I did a lot of walking, like just alone to clear my mind and just breathe.
Yeah.
And that slowing down, but still forward motion just helped a lot. I see an acupuncturist. She's made a huge difference. And just some tools like that. But making some of that self-love and the work that it takes to keep your body healthy, making that a non-negotiable priority for me. I now truly see that like if we take care of ourselves, then fill ourselves up, like we can give more to others, not just burn out. And I've even caught myself this week noticing, well, this past week and weekend, and I'm like, oh, you're doing it again. You're trying to power through. You gotta, okay, take some deep, let's calm it down. So I did some meditation this morning, and then I'll do some breath work later, but it creeps back in. But having that toolkit is helpful.
And that awareness when it does start creeping back in is important.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you teach CrossFit, is that correct?
Yes, I'm a CrossFit coach, which was kind of like as part of my healing journey. I graduated PT and OT, and so graduated, So then I went I was already a part of this gym for about 8 years before I got sick. And so I went in and I spoke with the owner. He's a psychologist and a friend. And he's like, yes, you should totally be a coach. Do that. And that was very helpful in giving me purpose after some of this recovery and being taken out of the working, big career world. Because I was like, well, who am I? Who am I now? And that's something we have, I think, like over time, women maybe, I don't know if men do too, but like have a little trouble not identifying with your job or role or whatever, So it was kind of helpful in that reinvention. And then, like I mentioned before we were recording, I think, some folks just have come to me over time to ask more than that, or just to ask how to get through challenging circumstances, whether it's health or like physical or emotional. And it's just feels really good just to share authentically like that. And then I also, during the past year, started a consulting firm, which has been a real blessing too, because I have a deep love of nature and its environmental science. And then I was in the nonprofit space for a while as a leader. So I can support folks in those realms as well. But it's been just what I needed, because I'm still not fully in a place where I think I could go back to managing everything and a 40-hour week job, So it's been fun and nice and supportive to our family. And so it's I'm kind of just doing a little bit of all the things I love, which is again just like following your joy. And even if you don't know, I did not know what I was going to do for like a year and a half. I was just like, what am I supposed to do next? God, can you show me a sign? And and so then just doing things that I loved over time helped lead me to here and now. And I don't know exactly what the next steps will be, but for now, this feels good.
Yeah. What would you say? I feel like we have a lot of listeners, and including myself, and what you experienced before your illness of, we don't really even put ourselves on the list. We're always last. We always prioritize everyone else. And we hear a lot from these women. It's like, I have children that have needs, and you being a mother of three, how do you, choose yourself and put yourself on the list when you feel like you have something else that has such a greater need for you that you put yourself last? But it's like, yeah, how do you kind of switch that mindset where you have to be first? Like you said, you have to fill your cup up first so that you can give so much more. But it's such a hard mindset shift where it's like we're just so used to putting ourselves last.
Yeah. So I think that, it doesn't have to be all or nothing all the time. It doesn't have to be a huge time commitment, because if you think about it, you can find some micro moments or different ways to kind of recharge, show yourself that you care about yourself, and then go and take care of the humans that need you or the job that is calling. And so, for instance, taking this time today, I got the kids all fed. They're not in school yet, and said, "Here you go, guys." It's very hot here, so they can't go play outside right now. But then they're all set, and I'm gonna take an hour for myself and for you guys and our listeners, and it's like feels so good that I'm gonna be, riding cloud nine, and then I'll do some work, and then I'll take them to practices and run around like crazy. But I do find also little times like I'm gonna call. I usually walk during their soccer practices and things like that, or baseball, and I just pop in a podcast or a headset or call a friend and just walk because you've got time to kill anyway.
Yeah.
And it really does something about that is just such a reset. And then I'm in nature, which I love too. So finding those little moments and remembering it doesn't have to be all or nothing all day long.
I
Just
love
little.
that. It's so hard to balance all of this stuff, but to hear just like I feel like your body's listening to those choices that you make. Obviously, for when we talk about like the hard things that affects our body, but like also then there's the positive things of just making a choice to like sit down and eat breakfast, or like you just made the choice of like your kids are eating and this is your time. Like your body's like, oh, she does pay attention to me. Like I think all these little things build up in our body, and we start to trust ourselves again too, right?
Yeah, that is exactly it. That's a great way to put it. Trusting ourselves. And it does build up because it gets run down too if we don't do it.
Yeah.
So, why not fill the bank of good vibes?
I love that. Thank you so much for talking with us. This has been amazing, and I feel like what you've gone through is it's inspiring for me, honestly, just to hear your journey and then all of the knowledge that you've learned along the way. And like I said earlier, it's like it's a bummer that we have to go through such hard things to get out of the end and like have all this information and knowledge, but it does it when you pay it forward and you give it to so many people and share your story with them, it's so inspiring.
Yeah. And I think what I see, I had another woman that had MS tell me it all starts with a decision, and it sounded like you made that decision in your coma that you were going to live. And I feel like if our listeners and anyone going through a hard time, if you make a decision and you know deep in your soul that this is how it's going to be, it happens. Like you just don't give up on yourself. So
Yeah,
you shared that beautifully.
that's so powerful. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you, Abby, so much for joining us and sharing your story. I know our listeners are going to resonate to a lot of what you said because we do struggle as women sometimes putting ourselves on the list.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. This has been really wonderful to share with each other.
Yes, and we will include all of Abby's notes in the show notes. And Abby, you're writing a book as well. Is that correct?
I've started. That's my plan. So
Yes.
I just feel like really called to do that as well. So that'll
Yes.
be on the
Oh,
list.
so excited for that. Okay, we will share that when that is all done and published. But so stay tuned, everyone, for Abby's journey as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.